Welcome to the Get Your Act Together podcast. I'm your host, Kelly Reynolds, and I am super excited to welcome Stephanie today. Stephanie, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. It is so fun to be here. I know that we had a conversation many months ago and had a blast, so I know today will be the same.
We did. We could not stop talking.
Yeah.
So can you tell everyone your business and what you do?
Sure. So my name is Stephanie, and I am from a deep south, from Lafayette, Louisiana, and I have two little boys and a hubby. And I started my business probably about 5 years ago and kind of got into the space as a virtual assistant, doing all of the things as I think everybody kind of does when they start their business. And then I'm going to have to look at the dates, but I think it's been 3.5 years now that I really niched into podcast management. So for the past 3.5 years, I have been started as a podcast manager and now kind of doing like full podcast production and have an agency and have grown my team like over the years and all of that, which I'm sure we'll get into, but that's kind of what we do now. We work for coaches and consultants and course creators, helping them on a retainer basis to run their podcast and also help them launch their podcast.
And that is a super service because we did ours on our own and it was tough. We do it now. We had to figure out all the things and I was looking up checklists and you have no idea what you don't know. So having someone launch it and run it seems like a dream, I'm sure, for my husband as well, since he's having to edit everything I say.
Yes. It's good to get in there and to really know what you're doing, which I think is always great. As a business owner, it's always great. But yeah, most of the clients that we work with are they don't have the knowledge. More than that, they don't have the time. Right. And they're like, I can't figure out how to research it to figure out how to do it. I just need to hire someone to do it or it'll never get done. So that's that typical visionary. Yeah.
Yeah, if it was up to me, this would never happen. There's no way I could get all of that done and all the other things. So yeah, I think this is fantastic. So why podcast? How did you get into that from being a VA?
Yeah. So I think like many virtual assistants that kind of get into this space really struggled with what was my thing? What did I want to do? I tried out social media management, website design. I mean, I think my website went through so many iterations as to what I was and what I was going to call myself. And it really wasn't until, like I said, I think it was about 3.5 years ago where I really sat down. I was like, I have got to narrow down and find something. And my coach at the time she said, what about podcast management? And I said, and I mean, really at the time, of course, I had listened to podcasts. I didn't really know that there was a whole behind the scenes of a podcast. But one of my clients at the time that I was doing website and stuff for, she had a podcast, or she was starting a podcast. And she said, Stephanie, can you help me start a podcast? As her VA. So that's what I did. I helped her. I Googled and YouTubed my way into figuring out how I could help her start the podcast. So when I did, that's when my business coach was like, that you're doing that for her right now. You're just not calling it that. Right. And so that was really when it kind of opened up for me. And that's really when I decided, okay, whatever, let's just go all in. Let's try it. If I don't like it, I can do something else. So that's when I went in and did that for about 6 months. It was a slow build. It was kind of slow finding clients, finding my groove. I probably had about 2 or 3 clients for, 6 or 7 months after that point. And then 2020 hit, as we all know, what happened in March of 2020. And from March of 2020, I probably had 3 or 4 clients at the time, lost a couple of them, of course, because the world was shutting down and everybody was, bailing on everything. And so I thought my business was going under at the time too. And that's really when actually it was the opposite. So I went from, 2 clients in March of 2020 to, I think I probably had 10 or 12 by the end of that year. And so It was a very quick thing that happened, which was great. But that also meant that I had to figure everything out very quickly and hire team and all of that. So that's kind of the how my business has kind of come about. And then since then, it's been a slower build, but we also, I've never dreamed of building a massive agency. That's not really my goals for my business. And so we've slowly just wanted to always bring on clients that we really feel aligned with. And, and so that's been, a constant process of figuring out, what clients we enjoy working with and who we want to bring on. And over the years, that's gotten better and better.
2020 is the defining thing for so many businesses. My podcast is a COVID baby. My business isn't, but my podcast was, because I had started very much in that way of like everyone was freaking out, and maybe I could be helpful in telling them how to do things. And it's changed over the years, just like your business. Like everything kind of is morphing, but that COVID baby thing where everyone's like, well, I'm home and I have something to say, and maybe I can help someone. I bet you had a lot of interest.
I think everybody had like sitting at home, nothing else to do but to like start a podcast. And so, yeah, there was a lot of that this year. So it was a crazy time. I mean, with everything going on. And then you have to remember during that time, I have two younger kids. And so the kids were now at home with me as my business was kind of exploding at the time. So it was a very interesting, time period.
So I think you just answered my question, but why an agency? Why did you pick an agency?
I wish I could remember who it was that talks about this, but like, I guess I'm sort of an accidental agency. Yeah. I think that there are a lot, some people go into it planning to build an agency. That's the model that they went into it. I never thought I would build an agency. I always thought that it would be like me and maybe a VA. And so when I first started my business, I did it which is what a lot of agency owners probably start at going into it, is I'm going to hire someone to help me. I'm still client facing. I'm still doing like the majority of the work. They're just going to kind of help me with a couple tasks. So it was more of a building a team, right? Not necessarily like like hiring on subcontractors that are going to help you with client delivery work. So whenever it started, that's what I kind of did, was more like one-off tasks, stuff like that. And then that's when it kept growing and growing because I had the help, it starts growing and growing. And then, I think that it was, I'm trying to remember when it really was, but when I started bringing on like a couple, I had probably 2 or 3 team members at the time, like kind of helping out odds and ends. But that's when I really looked at, okay, like, what am I doing here? What is my plan to scale, right? Like, am I going to just stay with the few clients that we have now, have the couple of team members? I'm still going to be the main point of contact. I'm still going to be in the day-to-day of everything. Or do I want to look at potentially, how can I bring this team on to be able to help my clients and me be able to step out of it a little bit and to step into a different role? And so that was really hard. Like that was probably, I'm sure that, and a lot of agency owners say that like getting out of being the main point of contact for my clients was the hardest thing. And I am still not wonderful at it, to be honest, especially with some of my clients that have been with me for 3 years. I feel like they're my baby and I still want to tend to them and whatever. It's much easier with newer clients because they come in knowing that I have a team and knowing that we have this they know it's an agency. But it was hard in the beginning to really like get some of those, clients and say, this is, my account manager who's going to be helping out on a few things, but like, don't worry, I'm not going anywhere, that kind of a thing. So,
yeah, I mean, that is one of the biggest things I hear over and over again. It was the hardest thing for me too, because you've built this business and you're making sure everything's running well. And then you're just going to hand that over. And what if they mess up? And of course they're going to mess up because they're human. Like I mess up, everyone messes up. And that is so hard. And it is the biggest thing. How did you deal with it? Like, how did you hand off things?
Yes. That is something that actually for my 2023 goals is something that I'm working on more and more. I'm, I guess leadership, right? And running the team, and just, working on my leadership skills with my team, and trying to be better at I think a lot of times I think, oh, I'm handing them tasks and I don't ever want to like, feel like I'm like, here's a task, here's a task, here's a task. So we really are working on, or I am working on trying to give them more leadership and like, and taking it from the beginning. Like, this is your baby. Here's what you should be looking for. Like, let me know if there's something that I need to jump in for, but like kind of trying to hand off the reins as much as possible. And that's hard when you've built this business from the ground up. And I'm a little bit of a perfectionist. So that's very hard for me to like tend to hand things off. But I know that you've talked about it on other podcasts too. It's like when you start handing it off, and then you realize, oh, they did it the same way that I would do it or better, because let's be honest, sometimes they do it better than you did in the first place. And you're like, oh, wow. Okay. So anytime that happens, it makes it easier and easier. So I always try to, you know, I was working on stuff even last night, you know, a few little things last night. And I'm thinking, is this what I should be doing right now? But like, let me come up with the process and then hand it over to someone else to like run with it from there. So it's very easy to kind of get pulled back into doing some of that stuff. And I'm a operations person. So I love like getting in the weeds and like figuring something out and finding solutions for, you know, what's not working. And so sometimes I try to just always remind myself, like, you know, of those, I guess, $10 an hour tasks or $1,000 an hour tasks, like what should you truly be doing, Stephanie? That's the hardest thing I think for me right now, is really like stepping out and making sure that I'm not being the bottleneck in there. So that's something I'm constantly always working on.
Yeah, I think it's a continual process. I have the same problem because I am an ops person as well. So I want to be in the middle. I want to be touching things and fixing things because I enjoy it. Like I have said a million times, I love making SOPs, you know, like I love being in the middle of it and figuring out a process and building it all out. Like, so it's very easy to fall into it, right? The other day I'm sitting here, it was for myself at least, but I was building something on Airtable and I'm like, I should not be doing this right now, but I loved it. So I was like, okay, if I enjoy it, fine. But you were also mentioning like giving away task instead of like a whole process. And I think that that's where a lot of people get stuck, is when they give away, here's a task, come back to me. Here's a task, come back to me. And it takes a lot of time for both people because now that person's got to figure it out. Then they have to come back to you. Then we have to have a meeting about it. And I tend to like perfectionist as well. So like, I'll give you a task and then I'm going to make you come back to me. And it takes an enormous amount of time and you get stuck in that. If I let my team run with it, they come and ask me if they have questions and then I check in, but then it all runs much smoother and I'm not in the way.
Yeah. And that's still really kind of where I've been lately. I'm like, things are going like really smooth, you know, as far as like all of the client delivery and stuff. So that's been great because we have been doing this for so long that we've built these processes. And so, you know, like, and, you know, I was looking actually the other day, I made a list of all of my team members and was putting I thought I never put their anniversaries in my ClickUp to remind them of like their work anniversaries, right? I have their birthdays and all of that, but I thought that'd be fun. And going back and realizing that people have been working for me for years. I mean, most of my team has been with me like 1 to 2 or, you know, working on 2.5 years now. So some of them have been with me from the beginning. And so that's nice because I trust them and it's much easier, you know, to do that kind of thing. But I am trying to give them more of a leadership role to really run with it, because I mean, we both know that like, that's what your team members want. They want to have, you know, autonomy, and they want to be in charge of something so that they aren't bothering you, right? Like, it's just like us. I don't want to bother my clients. They don't want to bother me as their client, you know? So that's been really great. And one of the things that we've done recently, that has been wonderful. At the end of last year, I thought, let me put together a little team survey and send out, because I wanted really to know, you know, I kind of knew because we track hours. So I knew what everybody was working, but I wanted to know, what are your plans for next year? Like, what hours could you work next year? Right. It was a little bit of a like selfish thing. I just wanted to know, how can I maybe use them a little bit more if they want more hours or like that kind of thing. But I ended up adding several other questions to this team survey and sending it out. And it was like, after I sent it out, there were things, you know, that what are some of the things that are kind of annoying that you in what you do on a daily basis? What are some things that just don't feel like they work right, or, you know, that you would like to change, or do you have any suggestions in this specific thing? So we got very granular, and the comments that they had really opened up so many things. I'm like, oh gosh, I wish I would have known that. Like, because I'm not in the day-to-day of the actual client work for a lot of the stuff, I was like, that's such an easy fix. We could have done that so long ago. Like, oh, you wish you had that little link. I could totally add that into ClickUp so that it's one click away every time you go in to do your work. Like, so many things that could have been implemented immediately, and or things that I'm like, that's a great idea. We should start doing that. Or I didn't even know you were having that frustration. Let me reach out to the client. We'll get a process in place for that so that it makes the team member's job more enjoyable. The team member now doesn't have to go to the account manager saying, hey, I can't get this information. The client didn't provide it. Now the account manager is going to the client, annoying the client. The client's got to, you know, get someone on their team to do it, then come back to the account manager back. It's eliminating a lot of the back and forth. So now, you know, one of the things I'm doing right now, and I'm like gung ho into it after this team survey has opened up my mind of, going to each of my contractors and employees and saying, for this particular client, what isn't working? Like, what's a process that we could implement and that kind of thing, and really taking all of the survey answers and all of that and really running with it and seeing how we can improve things, because it's going to make everybody on the team's life easier. It's going to make, us not having to go to the clients, anything that we can do to kind of leave our clients alone so that we just kind of take over everything is better. So that's been really great. And now I'm doing that every quarter. So, it's things like that like you put into place, and so that's been great.
I love that. Because a lot of times your team isn't going to want to bother you, right?
Correct. And they're like, oh, and a lot of it's so small, right? They're like, oh, I didn't want to just tell you. I'm like, oh gosh, I could put that in, the template that you use for every podcast episode. Like that's like, we'll drop that link in there.
Take 2 seconds to make your life easier. Right.
Yes. Yes. And they don't know, and I don't know either. So I think that it's like that. It's like sometimes as the CEO, it is good to kind of step back in and see how things are going, because then you're like, oh man, we could implement this. And so that's where I kind of I'm trying to work on this month, is really looking at what we have and what ways can we optimize. So I'm looking at how can we optimize, but then ultimately I'm giving it to the account managers to implement, right? Like, here's what we need to do. Now, account managers, you go in and update that and click up. And then, hey team, this is now what we're going to do, that kind of thing. So that's where I should be sitting as the CEO.
I love that, because you're delegating, but you're not abdicating everything away, right? You know what's happening in your business. And I think that is a lot of the fear of delegating, is that you then will not know what's happening in your business when you can. And having those kind of feedback channels, like your team survey, where people can actually talk to you, it's amazing, because they won't want to bother you. Or I don't know she must know better than me. I'm just a VA, or you know what I mean? I don't want to bother her system. She obviously knows what's going on. So like inviting that kind of feedback, it just makes everything better, and it makes them more efficient, because they don't have to do 3 steps instead of 1.
Correct. And, I've asked them, on our team meetings or anything like that, I'm like, if anybody has any suggestions, but right then they're probably not thinking of that. But when they truly sit down and, they have it and you're kind of writing it out, you're thinking through things and looking at that particular client. Ooh, I do have an issue because I never have their guest information. So it's hard for me to write show notes, like something like that. And I'm like, oh God, that's so easy. I didn't realize you didn't have that, or that was being manually done. We can definitely set that up as a Zap, and then you'll always have it, or, stuff like that. So that's been really great. And one of the things, that kind of happened at the end of last year was my account manager, who had been with me for 2.5 years, wonderful account manager. She worked for another company, and I could kind of see the writing on the wall, because she worked more and more for them and less for me. So I kind of knew at some point it was coming, but I think with anything, you just like hope it never happens. But she told me that she had, finally decided to take a full-time role with them, and, that she would be leaving. And this happened, right after Christmas, in that in-between week. And I was like, no, like getting into the 2023, like getting back into it, taking this time off. And I was thinking, great, I'm going to have to rehire, and we're going to have to do all this stuff. And now I'm going to have to jump back in and take over the work that she was doing and all of that. So it's been a little crazy January because of that, just that transition thing. But it's also, I think you did a recent podcast episode on this, it allowed me to kind of go in, because I had to go back into what she was doing. Same with the team survey. It allowed me to see what things weren't working or that could be streamlined, so that when I pass it off to the new account manager, I'm able to do it and they can run with it much smoother than like what she was doing. So I wasn't realizing how many, back and forth communication she was having with clients or with team, until I got back in the weeds and I was like, oh man, how can we break this? How can we break, having to go back and forth so much? So that has been a great process, even though it's been hard. Anytime you lose a team member and have to worry about onboarding a new one, that's hard, but it's also good to step back in and see where things, aren't working the best.
Oh yeah. I mean, everyone who's listening to this podcast knows that I had a client that was the whole their business, and handing that over, like you're going through, you're like, oh, these SOPs are really old. Like they were there as legacy things. Like, let me clean this up. Like we have really great systems, and I have seen Stephanie's systems, like a snapshot of them on a call, and they're beautiful. You have all these things laid out and all of that. But like, sometimes you're like, oh, well, I don't really need that anymore. Oh, we could do it a better way. And being able to just kind of go in and audit that before you give that over can sometimes make things just run better. Cause that's what like we do. That's our operations brains do that. So like coming in, using our brains, even if we're not supposed to technically be doing this work anymore, like I think that really jumping in and being like, okay, how can we make this run better? It's kind of what we do. And it can help our clients. It can help our business, make our team happier.
Yes.
So,
And I think it's good to do that like every now and then. Like there's that, it's, it's that push pull of like, and that's what I've kind of done. I've tried to set a lot of things up on like quarterly go in and look at this. That way, you're going to go back to it. So it's like off your brain, you're going back into it in, March and going to look at it again, and you can improve things then. So it kind of gets it off, because if not, it's that constant tweaking and refining like all of the time. What I don't need to do. Right. And that I will go in and tinker. Yeah. But I'm trying to also, while I'm fixing stuff per se, is making a Loom video and showing my account managers why I'm fixing this, so that they are more aware of it, so that they can kind of take their leadership, their role in theirs, and think, oh, Stephanie's fixing this because this wasn't working. How can I fix something else that's maybe not working, to where they always know. It's kind of that open. That's one of our core values too, is that open door policy of like, please tell me if something is like funky, not working, whatever, because a lot of times I don't know. And so I want you to come and tell me. And I always am like open to suggestions. That doesn't mean we're going to do it and we're going to roll with it. But like, I always, my team is awesome. I want feedback from them.
yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's the part of delegating, right? Like you don't just drop them in the middle of a field and leave them there. Like you need to know what's happening, because they're going to tell you. You need that feedback. Otherwise, you're micromanaging like a crazy person, running around, asking them 1,000 questions, driving them crazy. And especially if they're contractors, like if you're giving them a task at a time and then driving them crazy, like they can't work on the schedule that they're supposed to be working on. Like they're supposed to be working when they work, not when you say. So
yes. And when you have those, one of the things that I've really realized that, sometimes people think, well, we were talking about why I decided to grow an agency and growing an agency, and that piece that I never really thought about. It was like, I just needed help. Right. So I was like hiring because I just needed help to like help me. And because I'm going to be the business owner and this is how it's going to go. But then as I grew the agency side, I realized that I think it was a like secondary thing that I never realized, but it wasn't until, and even lately with doing the team surveys, I realized it again. Sometimes I feel from an agency point, I'm sure everybody struggles this with a business, is that you feel like, what's my like true mission? Like, how am I really improving the world? Like, because I'm not out saving children and, building water wells or that kind of a thing. But I realized that I am, I have 9 people that work on my team. I am providing income for 9 families. And, and when I did my team survey, at the end, it was kind of like, anything you want to tell me. And one of the people on my team said, you have like completely changed the way that our family runs. They have 3 small kids. And actually it's a husband and wife that now both work for me, but he was able to come home now. And so now they're both at home. He's like, how many times my kids have been sick that I'm now able to stay with them. And I'm like, oh, like stuff that I never thought about, right? Because you just always think like, oh, I have to bring on people because then I can make more money, whatever. But it's like, now I get to support other families. And that's something that I never thought about, and that has been like a huge like win for me in my business.
Oh, that is, I think my favorite part of agency is that thing. I have a long-term team. We have people here that have been here for years. And one of my team members said, like, you've totally changed my life in that way. And I'm like, I swear I'm not even being, this is what she said, I swear. But she was like, you enabled me to take care of my children. I could have this business. She's a contractor. She has this business. She could grow. She could take care of herself and not be worried all the time. And like coming from a person who grew up with a single mom who we're always worried about money, like those are the things you're like, right, this is helping people. This is helping my team. And we're helping our clients, obviously, but like that, like those things, you're like, oh, right. Like you can feed your kids now.
Yes. And that's like the feel good part of it, because sometimes, having team members is hard and all of that, but it's always that like working together. And I think it's kind of the, same thing like that I did miss from corporate, especially when I was a solopreneur doing this. I was like, I just felt, even though I had business friends and stuff like that, like having the team, to kind of laugh with or joke about it, it felt like that inner office communication that you get when you're working in corporate, right? Like you might not be sitting down for coffee and I might not be talking to them every day, but just voice boxing them on there and like, hey, hope y'all had a good weekend. What'd y'all do? That kind of thing. It really allows you to, I don't know, that's just like something that has been a welcomed thing from growing an agency that I truly never thought about.
Yeah. My husband calls Gwen my work wife. Like, just because we can like chat about the kids or what's driving, like that kind of stuff like that. That you don't get when you're sitting by yourself in an office at home, because that was rough in the beginning. I didn't know anyone. I didn't know anyone in like the online world. I didn't have any coworkers, and I was here by myself with my dog, who was great, but not a lot of chatting there. And I love that. I love that. All right. So tell me what your team looks like now. Like what kind of people, what kind of roles, and like, how is it structured?
Yes. So I believe we have either 8 or 9 right now. So I have one. Okay. Pretty much I have everybody in pairs. And so I found that this works great for what we do for our clients. We actually have 3 editors, but we have 3 editors and we have 2 show notes writers and we have 2 production VAs and we have 2 account managers. So we do it that way. I never wanted to I've thought about it both ways. I was like, do I hire a full-time show notes writer, right? Or or maybe a 30-hour a week, person or whatever. Do I get someone more full-time to be able to do that? But then I was like, if they go on vacation, who's going to be writing show notes for our clients? Because our clients' podcasts go out week after week, and we have 20 clients at this point. So we have 20 podcasts that are going out a week. So if, Charlotte's not here writing show notes for me, or Lacey's not here writing like Stephanie's writing show notes, right? Because nobody else on the team can do it because they specialize in other things, right? So I have set it up like that. So we have duplicates of everybody. So there's always someone that can fill in for my own sake, right? Because I don't want to have to step back in and do it, but also for my team members' sake. So that if something happens and Lacey has her kids get sick, it is not a problem. Charlotte's like, oh, I got this. Let me jump in. I'll do those show notes for you. So that's been great. That's why we structured it that way. It works out, to where everybody kind of has the hours they work. And then now what I'm doing, which we'll talk about in a minute, is like figuring out how to better utilize the current team that I have, as opposed to hiring more and more. But anyway, so all of my team is all contract, except for one of my account managers is an employee. And then, so that's kind of the way that we have it set up now. And then they are more all client involved, client deliverable involved. And so I've really tried to figure out now, where is that, like, who helps Stephanie on the growth side or on the operations side of like in the business, not, on the client side. So that's a little bit of where I am right now, but just trying to like figure out how to optimize my team as they are, and where can they, another reason that we did it this way too, is we wanted everyone to kind of have an expert approach. So my show notes writers are show notes writers. That's what they do. And they know it like the back of their hand, because that's all they do for me all day. Right. And my editors, that's all they do is editing. So they're not doing editing and show notes and the production side of it and doing Buzzsprout. And, they're not doing all of the things. But we are kind of trying to cross train to where they can, if they need to as well.
They can jump in, but they don't. Something's covered. But I like that specialization, because you get so good at it when you're like that's what you do. That's what you do. And you take pride in it. You know what's going on, and you get much more efficient than trying to go, wait, what do I have to do? Who's the way,
Correct. Yeah. And that's what my editors, like, they don't want to write show notes. Like, people that love writing show notes don't like editing, or people that love editing don't like writing show notes. So it allows everybody to kind of stay in their zone of genius and, do what fills them up. And one of the things on the team survey that I asked was, how many are you enjoying the number of hours that you're working? Are you enjoying the thing that you're doing? Because like, if you don't like what you do, please tell me. I probably have another role for you on the team, or something else that you can do, or we can transition it out or something like that. If a client, if you don't like one of the clients that you work with for whatever reason, like, please let me know that. We can swap, maybe subject matter. You enjoy this more than that. We can swap those 2 podcasts. So I always try to be like open to moving things around or whatever, but without asking that kind of information, I don't know that my show notes writer actually kind of wants to try editing maybe. So maybe that's something that we could open up and try for her this year. So that's been really great. So that's kind of where I am with trying to figure out my team right now. I literally made a spreadsheet of current team members, how many hours they're working a week, average right now, what they want to be working, what they would desire to work. And then if they wanted to do other tasks. And then I'm going to look at, okay, Stephanie, what are you doing in the business right now? And is there something that someone on your team could maybe take over? I'm not going to give people, one-off tasks, but like, Charlotte, you now are going to write the client newsletter every month. Like, is that something you want to do? And if so, then like, that's your baby. You take it and run with it. Like, why am I still doing that? Stuff like that. So that's a project that I'm kind of working on this week to hopefully, optimize things on the team side.
I mean, I found that when people come in, especially if they're coming in as a VA, like they're coming in and I may be one of their first clients, and they come in, they're like, oh, I can do this for you. And then as we go, they realize they don't really like doing this, but they really like doing this other thing that they helped me with. And we have shifted a lot of people around in here. Like they've tried out this client or they've tried like, and we've been like, you know what? So rejiggering the layout kind of thing to fit what they want, or as they've grown, they don't want to do this anymore, but they like you said, they might want to try editing. Maybe they want to try something new or moving up like you would in any other job.
Yes. And that's what they want. That's like great on the team members point, but for the CEO, that's what we want too. Cause I mean, we don't, hiring is not fun. It is a long process. Like it's long. And then you hire someone, and I've been very lucky. Most of the people that I've hired have been great because I have a pretty extensive hiring process, but I've had a few people that I have had to let go. And that's hard because when you have to let someone go, you've spent a lot of time training them and bringing them on, money, time, whatever. And now you have to start all over again. I mean, it can take a month to hire for a role. It takes just a long process by the time you get all the, filling out a job application. I mean, a job description, setting all of that up, going through everything. We do test projects, we do interviews, like all of that kind of stuff takes a long time. So anybody that's currently on your team that you can move into a different role is definitely what I want to do. It's actually what I've done when I was just talking about my account manager leaving at the end of last year. It was hopefully like a divine intervention of someone else that had previously worked for me for 2 years, left earlier last year for a few months to kind of start her own business. And she actually emailed me and said, hey, like the grass isn't always greener. I tried this other thing, but to be honest with you, it doesn't work out with our family structure. And she said, I would love to come back and work for you if you have any openings. And at the time I didn't. Well, 2 days later, when my account manager said, hey, I have to leave, I was like, wait, okay. And so I ended up hiring her back, and she's been working for me for like 2 weeks in the new role. And it has been a godsend. I mean, she was able to come back in so quickly. She knew our systems, our processes, everything. And she's done the behind the scenes work for the client. So she knew a lot of the clients already. And it was just it was a much easier way to like bring her up into that role and to give her new responsibilities, because it's stuff that she actually enjoyed doing more than the old stuff that she used to do for me.
Right. She's happier. And you have someone there, and you didn't have to train that person. Right. But like, there's just stuff they need to know when they come in as a new person into your agency, how you run things, what's the culture, how you work, where you track your time, like little things like that. And that's all the training. So to have someone come back and you don't have to do any of that, it pushes you so far ahead.
Yes, definitely.
Because I mean, a lot of people I feel like hire and they expect results in like day 2. You're like,
yes.
Wow.
And that's something that as a CEO, and I've learned too, like sometimes hires were just bad hires, right? Sometimes it just wasn't a good fit or whatever, but I try more and more. And that's part of that leadership role that I'm really trying to get into, is like, if something's not working, like, why wasn't it working? It's probably a lot of times not the team member's fault. It's probably your fault because you didn't give them enough guidance. You didn't explain things well enough, that kind of a thing. So I really try to be better at that piece of it, so that it's that idea of setting them up for success. Like if you're not setting your team up for success, they're probably not going to be successful. And that's when you go back into that. It's just easier if I do it myself than to have a team, because they don't know how to do it anyways. Like we've all heard that, right? And I've said that a million times, like just easier for me to do it myself than to have to show someone else to do it. But that's like not the way that it's, if that's happening, you're probably not showing them how to do it, which is why they're not successful.
I couldn't agree with that more. And like, I'm still fall victim to this sometimes. Like, I'm just like, I don't have the time to show you right now. Can you just be a miracle worker and read my mind? And then they're like, I don't know what you're talking about. I'm like, what do you mean? You're not psychic?
Wait, you're not in here? You're not in my brain knowing?
What do you mean you messed this up? I give you no instruction or expectations whatsoever. How did you not get this right? So yes, I couldn't agree with that more.
Yeah.
So I know we're hitting time here. So let me wrap up, but how do you manage 20 clients for your agency? Are they just client facing with the account managers? Are you in there at all being the bottleneck still, or are you out of that? Like how do you manage 20 clients and a team?
Yes. I know. I tell my husband all the time, I'm like, do you have 20 clients that you have to manage? And do you have 10 team members that you're managing and 2 kids and a household and all this kind of stuff? He's like, no, I don't know how you do it. I'm like, I know. But that is one of those things that ClickUp is what we live in and day out that really keeps us sane. And it has been an evolution. Luckily, I've been working with ClickUp for 3 years. So, I mean, there's a lot of automation set up, but ultimately the biggest thing as you scale your business and you're having more and more clients is you have got to have systems. Like you have to have some redundancy. And that's like with ours, like each of our clients has a form that they fill out as soon as they're done with their podcast episode. They fill out specific information that we need. It comes into our ClickUp. Then our editors, take it from there, and they know exactly what needs to be edited out or exactly what needs to be done or what intro needs to be added because the client has told them on the form that they filled out. So we try to always, making sure that we're getting all of the information that we need from our clients and then having a system, where a template gets added and then here's what we do when we kick off an episode, step. I mean, just like you say, everything. I mean, and I know that you would harp on this is like SOPs for everything and checklists for everything. And even though our, production VA has done that particular client's website for 2 years now, we still have a checklist that's like, add the time, add the tag, choose this category. Like there is a step-by-step to where if somebody else on our team ever needed to come in, we have a SOP video showing you how to do it. And we have a step-by-step checklist. So that is just super important to maintain that level of, I guess, deliverable to your client, right? Like that's just very important to me. I mean, over the course of 3 years now, we've produced, we're doing, 20 plus episodes a week. Some of our clients do multiple episodes, but we've now produced over like 2,200 episodes. Like that's a lot of episodes to produce. And I mean, like knock on wood, I better not say this. Like we've really never had hardly ever a handful of times ever had an episode that didn't go out on time or that we had a glitch in or something like that. So we've been really lucky, but that's because we have systems that somebody uploads it and schedules it, and then somebody's QCing it. We have a mid-level QC check that we do, and we have a final QC check that our account manager does. And so they go through and just make sure that everything is set up. So for the most part, the account managers are client facing. They're in Slack. We try to do Slack with a lot of our clients. Some of them aren't in Slack. And if they're not in Slack, we just keep them in email because if they don't use Slack, they're not going to be in there, which defeats the purpose. So most of our stuff is in Slack as far as communication. And then all of our project management is in ClickUp. So anything related to a specific deliverable or episode for a client, we try to keep in ClickUp. And Slack is a little bit more of like, hey, I'm having issues here. Like something that garnishes a quick response between the team or something that's with our clients. So I am still in all of the Slack channels for all of our clients. Maybe one day I'll get out, but that's the way that we do it right now. But my account manager is the main contact for them. I'm just in there and I throw my 2 cents in when I probably shouldn't, but.
But you also have like an eye on everything. Yes. Without having to be in all of the meetings and in
Correct.
Everything. Like you still know what's going on.
So it allows me to be in there and to see what's kind of going on. And then if my account manager, sometimes they'll vox me and say, hey, can you jump into, Elaine's thing and answer her question? I'm not quite sure how to answer that. I'm like, oh yeah. And, I'll go in and answer it. And then they can see how I answered it so that next time because there's going to be another client that asks that same question, they can kind of see. So I like them to be able to see how I interact with my clients so that they can learn how I treat my clients and how I would want them to treat them as well. So it allows me to be in there, but since they're the main point of contact and their, job or whatever is to maintain that Slack channel and to respond to the client, I don't feel like I don't worry about, do I need to check Slack this many times a day and respond? Because I'm not the one primarily responsible for responding. They are. I just kind of oversee or get to see it. I just kind of pop in there and check things.
I love that you just proved two of my biggest things that I always say, which are systems and letting go, right? You need the systems to have everything run, and you need to get the hell out of the way and let your team do the work.
And without the systems, you can't let it go. Like, I
Right.
know what the quality that my team is going to produce, because I have the systems in place for them to produce that quality of, that would be up to my standards and that I would want my clients to get. So there's always a constant refinement there too, right? Of like, always, what could we do better for our clients, and what ways could we improve this? And I struggle sometimes of, like, should we offer this service? Should we offer that service? Like, how do I grow now? Right? Like, now that I have this, like, what ways are we growing now? And so sometimes it's that shiny object syndrome of like, we could also offer this service and offer that service and start doing this. And, but I try to pull myself back in. Sometimes I'm like, let's optimize this first, then you can start doing this. So,
right. Cause you have to optimize this so it runs well, so that you have time to do the other thing.
Correct. Yes.
But it's so exciting when you have new ideas.
Yes. Yes.
I get drawn into that as well. And then my team's like, maybe not now.
Halt.
Do you know that? Like, we're all a little tired. No.
Do you know how many clients we have and how much we're doing right now? And like, let's just put a halt on that. And maybe, so that's good to like have that brain dump list. I have that in ClickUp of like all these ideas and things that we could do. And I have that brain dump list, and I kind of go through it, like once a month, like, is this stuff? And a lot of times it just stays on there and it just never actually comes to fruition, but it allows me to get it out of my head and then get back to what I need to be doing, like what I should be doing. Right. Like,
totally. And it's like, in that space, it's just fine to get all your ideas out, but they don't have to be real today.
No.
Otherwise you drive everyone crazy.
Yes. Yes.
Mostly my husband. My team doesn't hear most of it. It's mostly my husband. I'm like, what can we do with the podcast? And he's like, whoa,
hold on. Let's just get it going first and like get this rolling and like put some processes in place. And
yeah. I was telling him I was going to be on the podcast recording this morning with you and at dinner last night. And he was like, really? Do you want to find out if she has room? I've had enough of you today.
Is she hiring? Because like, yeah. And then like then I don't have to work with you anymore. No.
Yeah. I'm not sure if he just wanted to get rid of me at like my podcast, or if like he wanted to work with other people, but either way, he was very happy to hear it was you today.
That's so funny. We were talking, Kelly and I were talking right before we got on about our husbands. And I was like, oh, I'd love my husband to come home and work for me. And then, sometimes when he's at home, I'm like, oh, if you were working for me, you would be working, you would be doing this. Like I would have a list for you, like you're going to be working if you're working for me. So
yeah, that's a whole.
You might reconsider now.
I stay in my office a lot, so we're in different parts, because otherwise I would definitely drive him crazy.
Yeah.
I would drive him crazy. Yeah, like I would like to have a business and a marriage, not just one.
Correct. Got to keep that together. So like, yeah, that's why you have space.
Yeah. I'm in my office a lot by myself. Well, Stephanie, it has been fantastic to chat with you. And can you tell all the people where to find you?
Yes. You can find me at www.stephaniejudice.com. You can also connect with me on Instagram at Stephanie Judice. I am really good about watching other people's stories and like connecting with people there. I am terrible about actually doing my own social media. So that is another 2023 goal of actually maybe showing up and marketing my business this year. But I've been very lucky to have a lot of wonderful client referrals that, come to me, and that's who I love working with. So that's been holding me afloat right now, but hopefully this year, kind of put some other processes in place. But yeah, definitely probably Instagram, and you can always feel free to email me or reach out on my website as well.
That's great. Yeah, we are doing the same marketing thing, pushing. So
I know sometimes I'm like, I don't want any more clients. I can't do anymore. We've recently signed on like 4 new clients in the last couple of weeks. And I'm like, so we'll see. Yeah. Got to get those processes in place really quick.
See, people, Stephanie and I are like minds melding here on systems. She loves an SOP as well.
Love it. Yeah.
Well, it's great to have you on the podcast today.
Yeah. Thank you, Kelly.
And I will see everyone else next week. Thank you so much for joining me this week. If you have an agency or want to create one, come join my Facebook community, Get Your Agency Together, where we talk all the things growing and scaling your agency. For show notes and more info on all the things, head over to reynoldsobm.com. Follow me on Instagram and Facebook at ReynoldsOBM. And finally, if you enjoy this podcast, I would love for you to give us a review on iTunes.